Welcome to the Copilot Connection.
We're here to share with you all the news, insights, and capabilities of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem from across the entire Microsoft stack. I'm Zoe Wilson, and I'm the Global Digital Workplace Services Consult Leader at Kyndryl. I'm a Regional Director and an MVP for Copilots.
And I'm Kevin McDonald, an MVP for Copilot and Copilot Extensibility, and I'm the UK lead for Copilot and Agents at Avanade. We'll be releasing episodes as podcasts and on YouTube with insights from experts in the community and Microsoft on what the different areas of Copilot and Agents mean, the impact they can make to you and your organization, and what you need to do to prepare for them. Unfortunately, there won't be around what to do when your teleprompter suddenly decides to stop and you forget what your last line is. But otherwise, that went very well considering how it's been the end of a fairly long week.
Yeah, a fairly long week after a fairly busy few weeks.
Yes. Before we get into that, shall we tell people what we're going to be covering today?
Yes, yeah, that's literally where I was going. So this week we thought we'd pick up with a little bit more detail about Agent 365 and a first look at Copilot Cowork now that that's available in Frontier tenants. But first, we've just had MVP Summit. So when we talk about busy weeks, Kevin, you've literally just got back from a week at the Microsoft campus in Seattle. How was it?
It was fantastic. And I kind of always feel a little bit sensitive talking about this. You hear MVPs, I can't tell you what we've heard because it's all under NDA. If I'm honest, a lot of stuff's coming out fairly soon, so don't get too excited about that on there. But just getting together everyone, kind of getting a chance to speak to the product group, getting that feel for the strategy. And every year I kind of come away and what are the kind of areas that I see are going to be big from there, and what are the kind of themes? And I think there's two themes I can talk about without causing too much trouble. One that I loved was the number of product groups giving sessions together. I think you and I have grumbled over the last few years of kind of one team, one person saying this thing, another person saying another thing, and oh yes, Copilot Studio is saying that, but M365 is saying that, and they think this. There was actually a lot of togetherness, and the number of joint sessions really cheered me up. It kind of made me feel that people are talking and engaging across there. So that felt like a really positive move. And of course, you were there, if not physically, you were kind of watching remotely. How did you feel about that?
So, yeah, I know we talked about this on the last episode, didn't we? I was very sad not to be there. It was interesting because I actually thought that the FOMO would have been harder. But I think just with some of the family stuff I've got going on at the moment, I was actually quite relieved not to travel. Because I was intending to be away, I did a fairly reasonable job of managing to keep my diary, because the issue that you've got when you join these things virtually, and it's the same for people who try to follow along with something like Ignite remotely as well from the UK or Europe, is of course the time zone, because everything's happening in that West Coast US time zone. We were lucky that it was in that kind of weird period where the US clocks have changed, but ours haven't quite yet. So the time difference was only 7 hours, but
Well,
I was
thought
still
about
having
that. That's
to
true.
work every day, and then kind of a full shift into the evening. And I do feel like, they did quite a good job of kind of moderating the chat and making sure that our virtual questions were being asked in the room. But it's very hard to kind of keep that focus and energy when you're following along virtually.
Yeah, it's really easy when you've been out till midnight at Palmer's in
Midnight
Redmond.
at the earliest.
Yeah, midnight. Yes.
Yeah. But I agree with you. I think it was, I know we've talked about this a lot, and it's guidance and coaching I've tried to give people in a work context, that, we all kind of need to get out of our comfort zones. We need to look beyond our individual technology area, because the changes that are happening are blurring that boundary. And from a product group perspective, it's really nice to see some of that kind of interlock and collaboration starting to show up more visibly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was my big takeaway from it. My other takeaway was I need to go to Palmer's less. I did actually buy a Palmer's hoodie this year, which I was very excited about. And I know, I can't remember if we said this in the last show, I won't be going to Summit next year. The son's got exams, so I've promised my family not to have that impact. And I'm really feeling sad about it now, which is
So
ridiculous.
next year we'll be in kind of opposite shoes, won't we?
Yeah. Absolutely on there. So I'll be looking for lessons on there. I think the other big theme I took away from it is skills are going to be big. And by that I don't mean kind of technical skills learning, but the kind of set of instructions that you can build that can be used by multiple agents, by things like Cowork, GitHub Copilot. It's come I think it came originally from Anthropic. I'm saying that now. I'm hoping I haven't got that wrong, but it certainly with Claude Cowork was a big area there and that reusable element. Now, this is something public now. You can go and use it with GitHub Copilot. There's actually been an update. I'll put a link into the chat. A fantastic lab I actually did on Thursday afternoon around that, and that is public, so it can share there. And it showed how you can create your own skills with GitHub Copilot. Funnily enough, it allowed you to build a bingo app as part of that lab, which I literally laughed out loud because on the plane, I've been thinking in my head, I really want to get into coding agents. And I also want to kind of think differently. I didn't want to go and sort of open up Visual Studio Code and kind of write a few files and then get the code to kind of fill in some of the gaps. I was like, how do I go from I've got an idea, I've got a set of specifications I want, I've got a set of kind of technical guidance, go and build it. And I did just that. Created a brand new repo in GitHub, said I want to build a bingo app. I had this idea that I'm sure those who've been to conferences know there's common phrases. It kind of got triggered by someone saying to me, that's good feedback, which is one of those regular phrases we hear a lot. So I wanted to turn that into a bingo card, but I didn't want to be a bingo card. I wanted to have a whole load of phrases, same as you get a real life bingo card. Everyone's got different ones. And so I got it to build an app for that. Put in that specification, said I wanted everyone to generate, wanted it to have entry ID so they could log in with it. I wanted an admin screen so I could load in the phrases, and got it to build it. And it built that app. I think the plain Wi-Fi started cutting in and out a little bit, but I'd say in about 10, 15 minutes, it had something there. I then tried to get it running on my machine because I wanted to see what it looked like. That's when the Wi-Fi went out and then my battery ran out. And I was like, no, Kev, get some sleep. Just have a little nap now. Got back to the hotel, spun it up, managed to get it deployed into Azure. That was the only time I opened up VS Code, was to kind of have the configuration there, got it deployed into a main tenant and a dev one. And then through the week, that was kind of the basis of working, got a few people to test it, found it didn't work, logged an issue within GitHub, asked the GitHub coding agent to fix it. Boom, that then worked. And through the week, as people ideas, I got people to either log the ideas or I tracked them as issues in GitHub, got the coding agent to add a new feature, tested it in the dev one, maybe refined it a little bit. New version worked. I kind of heard about people doing this, but there's something about, especially hearing Microsoft marketing talking about these things that don't feel real, to actually do it and see the quality of product that came through. I was really both impressed and scared at the same time. And so when I've seen the skills, I think it's the same kind of element of reusing some of those blocks that you're using within coding that will come up into the world of there. And actually, we're going to speak about Cowork in a minute, things you can build out in Cowork too. So if I'm honest, in my head, I was thinking a year to 2 years down the line, so much will change about the way we're doing development. I completely disagree. I think we're there now. I think the way we do dev, if you're not using coding agents, you're behind already. This is a blockbuster moment, a blockbuster video compared with Netflix. I really think it's got to that stage.
Yeah, I mean, it was super interesting because like literally every day, because you shared this with other MEPs who were there, everybody was just going crazy asking like, can you reset the bingo cards? I need a new bingo card for today. And everybody just got so into it. And actually, I was saying this to you before we started recording, I actually activated GitHub for the first time. I've been in business leadership roles for years. I've got a technical background, but I'm not a coder by any stretch. But I think I must have been having kind of similar thoughts where I just thought, I actually need to get like hands on a little bit and figure out what I can do with this.
Yeah. I genuinely tried that lab. I did it and there was just kind of smiling away at it. It kind of took that next level of understanding as to how to build some of these things out and how to use those in there. I'm actually using the things I learnt in there to help us build our design documents now to kind of standardize a lot of things more easily. And those will be transferable. They've already said that skills in SharePoint is one of the things that was announced as part of the 25th birthday of SharePoint. So these things are there. They're going to be bigger and bigger. Getting an understanding and starting to work out how you build those out. And the thing is, you can just use like Copilot, and you can use GitHub Copilot to build those skills as well. It's not like you have to learn that new struct, different ways of using Markdown. Just use AI to help you do it as well. Use some of the examples and use AI with those examples to build them out as well. It's yeah, I'm sounding a bit cultish at the moment,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I
it's
kind of feel
I
it's
was
there.
actually I was talking to my other half about this last night because I was telling him that I'd actually done this, and I said, "Look, I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, but I'm going to do something." And I was actually
Be
thinking,
scared.
do I submit this as a session for ESPC to basically hold myself
Good
accountable, to
idea.
have a story to tell of the things I've done as a non-dev?
Yes.
Hmm.
Just because I can't wait for that month before where you have to panic.
Well, I've got everything set up.
You better get that submission in quick. So apologies if you're listening to this, unless I'm very, very quick with publishing out, which I might do. The submission date for ESPC is closing as we're recording this. So
6 hours
yeah,
as we
sorry,
speak.
too late. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, along with the karaoke and golf
Yeah,
and
I
various
mean,
different drinking things.
karaoke's for the common people, isn't it?
I hope that video doesn't go too far, is
Well, I was
all I will
actually going
say.
to say, is there any friendly video that we could share with our audience? No.
No. I might share the photo, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had karaoke last year in a much smaller bar, and yeah, I decided to go big. Oh, I mentioned the other thing I did was baseball. If you're ever in the US and there's baseball going on, just go and see it. It was so much fun. And
So
everyone's like, "Oh,
with
I don't really care
baseball,
about baseball." God, there's just
yeah.
so much going on around it. It was hysterical.
So with baseball, when I was at Ignite, not last year, the year before when it was in Chicago, I went to an AvPoint partner event. They did a workshop during the day, and then in the evening they had an event where they'd hired a box at the basketball, and the place stops every 10 minutes for a commercial break. So everybody runs off the court, and then they've got like some cheerleaders or they've got a mascot, and they're playing adverts. And the few UK people that I was with, we were all saying, seriously, could you imagine if they did this in the middle of a football match?
Exactly, it would be nuts.
Was it like that for the baseball?
It was kind of like that, but they'd have the giant screens. There was always adverts and things going on the edge of that. There was more like they'd have trivia questions, and everyone in the stadium's kind of shouting what they think the answers is. They had so I'm going to bring it back on theme slightly, a Microsoft-sponsored salmon race. So they had 4 mascots dressed as salmon running around the diamonds from there, and I was just like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. They had hot dogs from heaven. So one of them, obviously it was sponsored, so they had the advert, but the sponsor was throwing a load of hot dogs with parachutes floating down to the lower tiers, and people got a free hot dog if they caught them. I was just like, wow.
I'm not well.
So,
I guess if you're at a sports match and drinking beer, maybe you don't really care. But I'm not sure I'd really trust a flying hot dog from a sanitary perspective.
all I could think was you with a hot dog in your South Coast Summit outfit.
Yeah. Oh, memories. Well, you did send the
Yes.
picture of the person dressed as a hot dog, didn't you? Saying it's Zoe.
The guy was almost crying when he was so happy he got on the big screen. It was, I think that was great. It was opening weekend, so everyone was in a really good mood. It was sort of first match. The number of babies there. There was a couple holding their baby near us with a big sign saying "Baby's First Baseball" and things like that. And it was, yeah, it was good. So if you get a chance, it's an experience,
Yeah,
but
I
it
can
definitely
recommend.
needs beer.
I can recommend basketball as an experience as well. Not so much for the basketball, but like you said, everything that goes around it. You just
Yeah,
think, what on earth is going on? And
yeah,
like I said,
it's very
all
weird.
all I could think was, could you imagine with the football matches in the UK, 2 45-minute halves? Could you imagine if they stopped every 5 or 10 minutes for a commercial break?
It'd just be nuts. But yeah, I didn't feel it was quite as commercial, the basketball. Sorry,
The
the
baseball.
baseball. It was more fun, or they'd have things like the salmon race sponsored by Microsoft and the hot dog sponsored by whoever it was. So that was nicer. Plus, we were way up in the stands, and from my seat, you could kind of see the Space Needle, the sort of Seattle coastline from there, and it was the setting sun, so it was beautiful as well. And a
Yeah.
large, we had about 20 of us, 22. I think other MVPs there just having a laugh and smiling and laughing together. So it was Yeah, very worth.
Brilliant. Sounds like fun. And talking of fun, what have we got coming up in the coming weeks?
So we have, I really should have brought the site up and the dates, but the the Copilot Community Conference run by a lot of MVPs, I think they're all MVPs, certainly community members from Germany, that we're doing the week after next, 2 weeks' time. For you panic on there. And I'm just trying to find the link to that now. There's a lot of things cool, I have to say, on there, but really looking forward to that. And we're talking about the kind of journey of people in SharePoint in Copilot with there, which will be fantastic. I think talking about what it means, and we're going to be talking about co-work in a minute on there. Let me bring this up and share my screen. So yeah, 14th of April. All online, all free within there. And you and I are going to be talking about I keep getting confused by Donna's session, but positioning yourself for the future of Copilot. I think, kind of picking up some of the themes we've talked about already on here, and quite a few of the other themes we talked about, responsible AI and making sure you're thinking about what it means to do what you're doing within there as well. And many other things that we need to plan out fairly soon as well.
Then you've got an event not long after that.
Yes, and then we've got Experts Live UK coming up in June. So I think we've now announced all the speakers. Let me bring that slide up as well. We've announced all the speakers that are available, and I'm pretty happy. I've got to say, it was horrific choosing people and, more importantly, saying no to people, but we've got a nice, well-rounded group of people coming through from there, from UK and abroad on their nice set of sessions. We haven't announced the workshops yet. That's just one thing we're hoping to just wrap up fairly soon, but there'll be some great one-day workshops on the first day, and then second day, some amazing speakers. I don't know if we've published some of the sessions yet. So we've got people like Duncan Boyne. We definitely have things on security, Copilot. We've got Jayshree and Reshmi talking about building scalable enterprise AI agents on there. It really is across the whole range of Microsoft side. So we've got things on Planner, some lightning talks, GitHub Copilot adoption. Might have to drag you along for that one, Zoe. On there as well. And we've also got some non-tech ones. So we've got Sandra talking about it's not about age from too quiet to tech speaker. And I can vouch for Sandra not being too quiet anymore from that one. So it should be really good session from that. Looking forward to that event, really.
Yeah, I can't believe how quickly it's come around.
Yeah, tell me about it. Lots to be planning with that one. So looking forward to it.
And just whilst we're on the topic of conferences, for those of you listening, the call for speakers for Scottish Summit is still open. It will be open until the end of April. We are running another one of our speaker session abstract guidance webinars in a couple of weeks. You can find the link to register online if you want to hear directly from us in terms of what types of things we're looking for. We've had some great sessions submitted already. I'm already not looking forward to reviewing them, to be honest, because there's some really good ones in there. But you've got time if you want to speak. You can get your sessions submitted.
Good. Should we go back to Copilot?
Yep. I mean, what are we, 20 minutes in and we've not really talked about it yet?
Hopefully no one's drifted off too far. So one of the highlights, and yeah, I can't talk about the session too well. I think I can say who it was. One of the highlights of MVP Summit for me was a session on Copilot Cowork. And Baz Breckelmans, who we've had on Copilot Fireside Chat, went on and basically just demoed it. And if you heard him on Copilot Fireside Chat, you'll know he just happily talks about whatever he wants to talk about, including leaking something which I really can't talk about. And I'm pretty sure he should not have mentioned at all as well, which was highly entertaining. But it was a very natural view, and it really got me thinking. We should probably start with what is Copilot Cowork. This was announced, what was the date? March 9th, I think, from that. It's Copilot Cowork. It's kind of what everyone thought Copilot was going to be in the first place, if I'm brutally honest. It's one place to go that will not only answer things, but will actually take action as well in there. But whereas Copilot, you kind of send a message, you get response back. This is a lot more like the researcher agent works, where it will kind of go and build a plan and take action on that within there. So it will go away, look at different things within there, but it will also, as I say, take action. Whereas researcher is just bringing back information, this will actually go and do things from there as well, such as tidy up your inbox, such as tidy up your calendar. I cannot wait to get this on my work account. If you have a Copilot license, you're enabled in the Frontier tenant, and you've enabled the Claude models. We'll come back to more on that a bit later. Then you can use Cowork right now on there. I'll play some of these videos for those watching on the screen on there. Although I'm going to turn the sound off, just stop distracting me on there. But here you can see this. It appears as an agent on the left-hand side once you have enabled it. Oh, by the way, you enable it. If you hadn't realized, you need to go to the admin center, effectively into Agent 365 in the agent list, find the agent and decide who you're sharing it with there. So there is control over who gets it as well.
Yeah, if we just like pause for a second on that, because I think in terms of understanding the steps to activate it, I know this is something people have a lot of questions on. So the things that need to be true, you need to have enabled your tenant for the Frontier program, which is a toggle in the admin center. You need to have enabled, you need to have enabled Anthropic as a sub-processor, which again is in the Copilot settings in the admin center. And then once those two things are done, like Kevin said, you can go find the agent and deploy from the list of agents in Agent 365. And the reason why some organizations might not deploy this, so for those of us who, like Kevin and I, are in the UK or in Europe, the moment the data that is being used by Claude or by Anthropic is being processed in the US. So organizations have a concern that a valid concern that their prompts, their data is leaving their EU data boundary and being processed outside that. So this is why there's lots of topic around, you see lots of conversation and lots of questions around when will it be enabled properly in Europe. And the reason is this, because of that sub-processing. And at the moment, from a tenant perspective, if you enable Anthropic as a sub-processor, it's either on or off. I think there's something in the roadmap, isn't there, Kevin?
Yeah, April the 20th is when you can enable the Anthropic models for some people. So you can enable it by security group or by individual within there. So, sorry, I should say April the 20th at the moment, because it was
Rejected.
March 1st and it has slipped a little bit. I've heard there's more confidence on April the 20th. I think there'll be costs if it slips later than that, because it's going to open up a lot of things for orgs as well.
Yeah, so what that means is for people who work in multinational organizations where this data processing outside of the EU data boundary is a concern, at least in those organizations, they will be able to enable Anthropic as a sub-processor just for those people who might already be in the US or another country where they don't have the same data concerns. Unfortunately, it doesn't help us, does it, Kevin?
No. And I would say, one thing to be clear, it remains within your Microsoft boundaries. So your enterprise data protection, it will still be covered by that. This is not being used to train new models. It's not going out of those boundaries. It used to go to Anthropic, and there was a different agreement there. This will not. As it is in the moment, it stays within your Microsoft boundaries, just not within the EU boundaries at the moment. So
once you've done all of that, once you've actually got this enabled,
move to the US.
Then what? Move to the US.
Disappeared your morals and all the bits there. Then you can turn this on. So you'll see, for those see on the screen, you've got the same sort of chatbot you'd expect within there. But then underneath that, there's 4. I guess they're a bit like the suggested prompts. So you can organize my inbox, organize my week, prep for a meeting, or research a company. I cannot wait until one day I can turn it on at work to organize my week. And I think this is what the demo is, but if you're like me and people just cannot understand that you might actually be busy and that they probably should have a look at your calendar before they just put in another meeting. And you end up with, what did I have today? 5 meetings at the same time on there. And I just haven't got time to go through that. This will help go through and make an organization. It will help you build some focus time into that. I love it here. You can see it click through quickly, but it will let you think about your weekly goals. What is your mood? What are the kind of low value meetings? Do you want no meetings before 9 a.m.? And that kind of thing. All those good things. Some of these posh people who have executive assistants, Zoe, will kind of guide their executive assistants on. You can start to do this with Cowork and it will remember some of those items as well. And so you can get it to go through a bit quicker from that. So you can see here it even recommends an email to send to that. So if you want to decline it, or maybe it will pick up some points within there. So it's not just a kind of do it once and that's it. It will give you some suggestions. It will send you a notification as it builds up those suggestions over time. So these tasks that run and take a little while to go back and forwards, they will kind of process and you can go back and interact with them. So you don't have to stay on that screen. You can leave it running a little bit, come back to it later from there. And yeah, really, really excited about this.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me that gives this a lot of potential is the fact that you can have multiple processes or tasks running at the same time as well. So earlier in the week,
Yeah, I'm going to hesitate. I say yes-ish. I noticed yesterday there was a big message at the top saying some tasks may fail during busy periods and things like that. So I have a feeling lots of people have been
well,
doing exactly what you suggested, and Microsoft's gone, we're burning through all
yeah,
our money.
I'm not saying go run like 10 processes at once. And I think the important thing to remember is that at the moment, this is in the Frontier program, which is essentially public preview. So things like capacity, load balancing, all of that kind of thing won't be figured
What
out
the
yet.
license will
So
be. Yeah.
yeah, so from a feature perspective, you absolutely can. Whether it works or not whilst it's in preview and lots of people are playing with it is a completely different story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of licenses, we have no idea yet. We don't know what will be needed to run this once it goes into GA. So that will be interesting to watch
Yeah, I
in
mean,
there.
this was announced as part of the E7 announcement, wasn't it? But when you look back at the license details that say this is what.
I wanna quibble that slight. It was announced at the same time
No,
as the
let me
E7 announcement.
finish.
Yes.
Let me
Okay,
finish.
good.
So what I was saying was it was announced as part of the E7 announcement, but when you look at the licensing table, it's not listed. So my assumption was that it would just be part of the Copilot license, which would then also fall into E7, but they haven't actually provided any clarity on that. So whether that's deliberate or not, I don't know. Whether there's an intent that there will be an element of capacity or an element of this that comes into Copilot and or E7, I don't know, but I guess we'll have to see what happens once they build up the capacity and it comes out preview.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I hearing the amount of times the MVP summit, and I've heard before and I've heard afterwards of people asking about when are we gonna get Claude in Europe. I do wonder if they're gonna wait to that and as you say, build up that capacity globally as well. So yeah, will be interesting. Just because it's always lovely showing videos versus the real life. Here is my screen for those watching on there. I've done my calendar review. Apologies, I'm not going to show that. I'm gonna come back to that second one and show one that I kicked off just before the show, and I haven't even looked at this, so this could be fascinating. I asked it, I'm a co-host of the Copilot Connection podcast, doing our latest show on Copilot Cowork and Agent 365. Using our usual blurb from copilotconnection.com, give a show breakdown on what we should cover, make sure it shares useful information, but give us discussion points too on that. And what you'll see, if I expand that, it said it tackled it in 31 seconds. it shows me the thought process. So it says there it wants to fetch content from the website. So let me fetch that URL. And it has, in fact, identified copilotconnection.com correctly. Seeing as I gave that address, you kind of hope so, but it did. And here I now have a podcast blurb. The standard show blurb is Welcome to Copilot Connection. The podcast explores the world of Microsoft Copilot. So I think it's pulled from the key part of that. It starts to think about what Agent 365. So you can kind of see what it's thinking about within there, which is fascinating.
Don't scroll down too much yet. I think in this thought process, the one that I found really interesting is where it says, I should be careful not to overstate what I know for certain here. Microsoft has released autonomous agents as part of Microsoft 365 Copilot, but I want to make sure I'm accurate about the specific product names and capabilities before building out the show breakdown. Good luck with that, considering the names change all the time.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting. I've seen that the second time that it kind of correlates Agent 365 with autonomous agents on there rather than being the control plane, which is interesting. I'm also going to say there, for those watching the screen, I highlighted and I noticed it said provide input. So I can actually say, no, comma. Agent 365 is the control pane for agents in the Microsoft space and beyond. Let's see what that does. So what I've done is kind of give it a bit of information. You can actually do this while it's processing as well, which I really like. So it's given us a bit of an idea, quick recap of where Microsoft 365 Copilot's come from. Story shifted from Copilot as a feature to Copilot as a platform. I quite like that, actually. We might steal that one from there. Where has it gone within there? What is Copilot Cowork? What is Agent 365? Covers pre-built. Yeah, I think it's got.
It's still calling it. If you go back up, it's still calling it a framework for autonomous and semi-autonomous agents.
Yeah. So this is the one way before. I can see it's running below. So it says no, Agent 365 is control pane for agents. What is Agent 365?
I like the way you say good catch. Like, oh yeah, my bad. Good catch.
It's not just a set of agents, but the central hub for managing, governing, and orchestrating agents. Think of it as an admin layer. I haven't seen a reference the web, so whether it's just making this up entirely, I kind of feel it is at this stage. But yeah, I could encourage it to go and check a web skill and things like that. Interesting you pulled up on that. Good catch, because in the Summit demo, one of the things that it came up, they were talking about giraffes and how there was 4 species. And Baz said, look, let me try and tell it there's 5 species. It actually said no. So it wasn't, there's always this problem about agents and Gen AI being sycophantic. It actually challenged and said, no, I'm right, which I thought was a really important point on there. So I liked that. So yeah, that's one bit on there. The other side, and going back to this is actually a genuine use case that I'm going to use on a regular basis. I asked it to review the M365 roadmap, the M365 blog, the community hub, the Agent 365 blog from there, and asked it to summarize the latest updates. So it's kind of summarized the big picture of Wave 3. It's picked up their big announcements of Cowork, Agent 365, E7. It's talked about the multi-model intelligence. I think somewhere I remember seeing actually picked up the roadmap as well as the blogs on there. But really useful way of kind of summarizing. I keep meaning to go back and change this slightly to say, can you identify the roadmap items too? But I then asked it, I talked about skills at the beginning. I asked this to create it as a skill and save it in your skills folder. So it's now created me a Copilot news skill that I can go and look at. Those are all stored in OneDrive. And now I can repeat that. I don't need to kind of copy and paste that detail. It's kind of evolved that skill into a longer prompt than the one I gave it. And it's not only done that, and I've then said, yes, send this every Monday morning. So now I have a scheduled prompt on there. Using that skill, I could share that skill with other people. And over here, I can see the markdown files that it's created that I can start to reuse elsewhere. And in fact, this one has, I think I did go through and ask it to pick up the roadmap highlights, partially retrieves JavaScript rendered. Interesting. So it's picked up the different elements of Copilot within that all into a single document. Just love this. I think this is fantastic. And obviously I know kind of researcher can do similar sorts of things, but to build it into a skill, to have it reuse that skill and allow other people to use that, really impressive.
Yeah, and when you think about the fact that this is just the first week of it being available in preview,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels like there's a huge amount of potential for this.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see where people take it as well. So, shall we see if we can fly through Agent 365?
Yes, sounds like a plan.
What is Agent 365? We kind of covered this by getting Cowork to talk about it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that was entirely intentional, but
It's an admin center for your autonomous agents.
never trust AI. Trust us. We're real. Mostly on there. So, yes, what is Agent 365? And I kind of, again, within that session, gave it a bit of guidance because Agent 365, available from May the 1st, just giving away all my notes from this one, is the control plane for agents on there. And I love this blog post because it talks about the three big pillars on there that I think are the important part of it. It's that observability, that ability to see your list of agents, that agent registry, either as a list here, for those who can see on the screen, or as a map as well, where you can actually see the connections between the different thing. I was laughing with Zoe before we started recording because I've just been on a training session that Chris Huntingford was running. And at that point, he had the demo gods hit and this map wasn't loading for him, which entertained me greatly.
Yeah. So this was available when we did the workshop in Dublin for ESPC with Chris. This was part of what was available in the very early feature. I would like to hope that it has come a long way since December in terms of what it can show you, but in terms of the promise of being able to help you understand what agents you've got, how they're connected to each other, which ones have relationships with each other. I think this is going to be incredibly valuable for organizations as they start to scale up the number of agents that they actually have in production.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hesitating on that slightly. This jumped a long way. I think some of the things that they showed around that time that Microsoft showed at ESPC that we hadn't seen land there, I think all of those are now live. There was one block on the main overview that I haven't seen yet. Certainly this map works a lot better than it did when we first demoed that there. I'm a little grumbly. I was kind of hoping for more, and I've still got my fingers crossed that we'll see a few things come in for that general availability on May the 1st. But yeah, we'll see. It works better and more stable.
Yeah, well, I think it working better and being more reliable is super important.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think
agree.
for organizations who are potentially considering either a $15 per user per month or upgrading to E7, they'll need to see that it actually has what Microsoft say it has.
Yes. Or a very good roadmap of when it will have the extra things as well that come through from there. So I think, if I'm honest, $15 per user per month just to see a list of agents in one place. Could I justify that? Not really. I think the extra of those analytics, again, this starts to justify it a bit more. So you've got a single place to see all your agents, whether it's Copilot Studio, Agent Builder agents, Microsoft Foundry, and even third-party ones coming into this, all into one place. I think that's a very nice place. You don't need to jump around to try and get the latest insights into there, which is useful. And you've got different roles within that. So security leaders can look at their agent risks, etc., etc. I think the governance, so being able to apply policies to those agents is nice. Being able to link the tools and see in one place. We can't quite see on the screen, but it's got here like groups.readall, and you can turn on or off the different connectivity that agents have to things. So if you suddenly find your agent shouldn't be sending mails, but somehow has got permission, is sending a load of mails. Click, boom, there we go. No chance of that sending out to any dodgy emails there straight away. Plus, if you weren't sure if it is, you've got a central place to log that within there as well. And the same with security. It's allowing you to control in the same way you can do apps, in the same way you can do employees. You can set up what permissions your agents have. You can set up what data security and data exposure they have. So if your agent has access to the wrong things, then you can help analyze that. And my favorite is the threat protection. So if someone's trying to jailbreak an agent, if you've got Chris Huntingford doing his Agentageddon stuff and trying to get an agent to tell you how to make heroin and all sorts of things like that, then you can get detection and alert from there, which I think is really powerful. So I'm a big fan of Agent 365 from that perspective.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Sorry, I was just laughing thinking about Chris's workshop.
Yeah, I agree. And I think on the positives, I think we've also got an awful lot that it's built on those pillars. So it's all in the Microsoft Admin Center in terms of that launch place. You've got Defender, Entra, and Purview that many organizations are already making use of. It's all built into those as well, which is you're not asking people to do things differently from that. That's very good.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see what the response is like from enterprise organizations when this is generally available. I know we've talked for probably a couple of years now about the need for agent governance. And for me personally, I feel like this does fill a very big gap. I know in this first iteration, we've
Not
got,
everything.
well, we've got first per user per month licensing. There is this whole question around what happens with everything else, what happens with autonomous agents. And
But I think also deciding when you buy a license for a user versus when you don't, it feels like there's too complex a story.
it's not clear yet, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that is one thing. I have seen some things that kind of basically say you won't get the analytics, you won't get the audit logs, you won't get the full detail. So if I use the agent and I don't have a license, you won't get alerts when I try and break it, versus if you do, you will, which seems crazy. So I'm hoping that story evolves a little bit more clearly. Knowing Microsoft in the past, probably won't, but we'll wait and see
Yeah.
for that one.
Well, we don't have long. It's only a month until general availability now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the thing I'd most like to see is more around kind of cost control and cost analytics. To me, that's the big gap that I'd like to see filled with it. So yeah, fingers crossed over the next month, and maybe a bit more on the tools as well. I kind of feel that was something that initially was shouted about a lot, and it's kind of gone a little bit quieter. So we'll see if something more comes from that on there. But as you say, Zoe, it's a big one. I kind of feel I've been doing a few, I'm not going to mention too many names because I'll get in trouble, but a bit of analysis of what the alternatives are. And I haven't found one that does the breadth that Agent 365, because it can't connect to all those places. There's things that are better in certain areas, but not something that will cover everything within there.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because for a lot of enterprise organizations, they might have already invested in one platform or another that has some of this capability. Part of the challenge has to be understanding, which control plane is best in which scenario,
Yeah.
and helping organizations get the most out of their investments, regardless of where that sits. And if they've invested in two things that both do an element of this, is there actually a way for them to work together that's seamless? And I don't know the answer to that yet.
Yeah. I think we see this when Microsoft gets into a space, there's a bit of churn as some of the, I don't want to say smaller play, more niche services, because they, can be very big companies doing it, kind of provide that bit. And it's like, do I go wide with Microsoft or narrow and bolt together a lot of different things? Well, let's see what everyone else is doing and work it out later, which is always a fun time for those trying to sell these products and integrate them. What I'd say one thing that Agent 365 won't do is it won't define your people and your processes. It is a tool. You still, we had one client who said, this is great, but that alert goes off and Chris is trying to jailbreak something. what do I actually do? Yes, it will tell me about it. What do I do about it? What's the steps to remediate that on there? Who's going to do it? What happens if it happens at midnight, etc.? And I think those are the interesting conversations that people should be starting to have ahead of releases. Given you're going to have this capability, what do you actually do with it? So it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I can look at all my agents. Great. No one's using them. Damn.
Well, when you look at the press release from Microsoft making the announcement on the 9th of March, they said they had 500,000 agents in Agent 365 versus an employee base of around 200K.
They didn't say how many were being used.
No, they didn't. They didn't. I mean, they
Just
like,
saying.
yeah, but when you think about that, so they've got what, 5 agents for every 2 people, first of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, it's not clear how many of those are being used, how many of them are Zoe test from 6 months ago that someone built once and never used again, or Kevin test V1 or whatever. They didn't say like how many of them are actually driving value, or what they're doing, but still 500,000 agents and all
Is
of the
huge. Yeah.
associated event triggers, the observability data. It's just insane. It's an insane volume of data. And like you said, it's the processes around this from a governance perspective, from an audit, compliance, investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking actually 200,000 of those were actually Abram Jackson just building things from there. I would say a good friend of ours has just joined Microsoft, and part of his onboarding was building an agent, using agents in quite a few steps. So I do know that Microsoft are using them for a lot of, but
I should hope so.
yeah.
I should hope so.
Yes, it was good to hear. I think said person was like, they actually are, which is really nice. That was good to hear. But no, I hope that helped people. I think we probably went through a little bit of what we've gone through, but tried to pick up some other areas. And certainly it's been great to show co-work to people as well. So yeah, if
Yeah,
you're
I'm really
listening,
excited
go and
about
check
that.
out the videos of that as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm really looking forward to just having some time to properly play and push the boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Be a good time. If only we had a 4-day weekend. I'm sure you're going to be sat at your laptop playing around with co-work.
I might for part of it. I do have a trip to Leeds tomorrow, more
Very
family
nice.
duties, but
Very
yeah,
nice.
I definitely want to try and get some playtime
Do you
in.
not show co-work to your family and inspire them?
Think
I
that
am
I don't think
joking.
that
I am
I
joking.
don't think the anticipated response is safe for our podcast audience, Kevin. This is a
Fair to say.
family-friendly show.
That is true. That's true. Well, it was good to chat anyway, and good to see you after Summit. I don't think you had your video on. I did see Lorian Strant actually join one of the sessions with his
Yeah,
video
but
on. It was on a giant picture with a Deadpool mask on halfway
for
through, which was
him,
highly
I mean,
entertaining.
he's just a troll from morning to night anyway. But for him, it was first thing in the morning, whereas for me, it was late in the evening after the end of a full day.
That is true. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. No one needs
brilliant.
to see that.
Well, until next time, Kevin, and to all of our listeners, it's been a pleasure as always.
Don't forget to subscribe, and otherwise, we'll see you again soon.
See you
Thanks a lot.
soon.
Bye.